He is Garrett Martz, Director of Corporate Partnerships for Fort Wayne FC. He's rocking the Fort Wayne FC gear on right now. And, they started the season last night in Naples. It came to a 2-0 loss, unfortunately, for the season debut. But just overall, how was last night received, in the Fort Wayne FC community? Obviously, they were live streaming the game at JK O'Donnell's. What was your reaction to just seeing everybody ready to go for last night's match?
Yeah, I think it's been incredible, the response we've had from the community. Last night was a great example. As you mentioned, we had a watch party at J.K. O'Donnell's, and we had that side room they have, full. I wasn't able to attend, but I know we had some staff there, and it sounded like it was a great turnout, great, energy, even though the game didn't end like we hoped. And even before that, we did a kit reveal where we revealed the new jerseys up in Auburn at Cruz Plaza, and we had about 450, 500 people turn out for that. So, and I didn't know what to expect. I've never been, soccer. It's kind of a kit reveal. It's kind of a unique to that sport. So I was like, are we going to have 50 people, 100 people? And it's like, no, we had 450. So I think people are buzzing, are excited. And, obviously we want the team to win, but at the end of the day, it's all new, and we're getting started. And I think we're excited to have the community buy-in that we've had.
Yeah, like the last night, the victory wasn't, I don't think it was the end all be all. Obviously, the first game as a professional soccer club right here from the 2-6. So with that being said, what do you think, although it ended in a loss, what did last night's game mean for not only the franchise, but the city of Fort Wayne?
I think it means a lot just to have pro soccer back in Fort Wayne and to get that first game under our belts. We have a younger team. I think we're probably one of the younger teams in the league. So, it takes some time to get that experience and get everyone in sync. And also at the beginning of the season, there's always, issues especially with soccer, with visa, because a lot of the guys are international. So I know we've had some guys we're still trying to get in, but visa issues are setting those timelines back. But I thought, and I come from the world of basketball. I'm still learning a lot about soccer. I'm becoming a fan. So I wouldn't say my analysis, but I watched the game last night on ESPN Plus, and I thought we looked really good, and we had some near misses where we could have had some goals there and some. So I thought it was a very respectable, good performance to come out the gate with, and a lot to build on.
Yeah, as you mentioned, you come from the world of basketball, and you were, formerly with the Mad Ants when they were here in town, and obviously you were, helping grow that franchise into all what it ultimately became, and one of the more popular events here in town. Now that you've been with Fort Wayne FC for over a year now, is there any parallels you can draw from your time with the Mad Ants and how this has grown and just grown in just the last handful of years, and what kind of growth you've seen over just the last year?
Oh yeah, I think there's a lot of similarities. I think with me, my position, I'm the director of corporate partnerships. So mostly it's, finding sponsors who want to advertise, market at the games, and do collaborations. But also there's a lot of other things you're involved with, like in the community with, getting our players out to clinics or appearances and things. And I think, it's really just different sport, but kind of same thing, for my view of it. And the big thing that I try to do and mirror from those Mad Ants days is, hey, we got to get out in the community and set up all these clinics where we're out in front of those kids. And that's one thing I think people aren't even aware of in Fort Wayne is, even if you're from here, that how big that soccer community really is. You have Fort Wayne Sports Club, Fort Wayne United, all these different youth leagues, C3 Sports, St. Joe Soccer, all YMCA soccer programs. And you have all these families kind of looking for that something that, hey, that my kid is in this sport, they want to go see it. And now we have that here in Fort Wayne. It was kind of the same with the Mad Ants, and it takes time. You got to get out in front of people. You got to get that excitement build up. But I look at it as very similar. I'm kind of using a lot of the same, model that I use with the Mad Ants of how we ramped up. Because, it's hard. Fort Wayne, there's good and bad because you have such a strong minor league community already with the Comets and Tin Caps. So you kind of want to come in strong and deliver the same product, that the same level that they are. So that's what we're all about, is we want to be a kind of an equal sports partner here in town. And I think especially once the stadium is done and you're going to see, wow, this is just, amazing. The quality of the venue, but also the level of play as well.
So what also excites me, not only just for having professional soccer back in Fort Wayne, but like What also is exciting me is the stadium. That is, I think, is the biggest talk around the Fort Wayne FC right now. Is there anything that you can talk about in terms of an update for anyone about the stadium that's being built for the Fort Wayne FC?
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely go on our website, check out all the renders and things. And obviously, if you're just driving down I-69, you can see it right off there, off of Illinois Road and Bass Road. If you're driving northbound right after you pass Illinois exit, you can look to your left, and you're going to see all the updates. I think the biggest question we get about every day is, hey, is the stadium going to be is it going to be ready in time? And at that kit reveal party, our COO Scott Spro made a strong, hey, it's going to be ready. And I get people's questioning. It's an aggressive timeline, but there's a lot of things that are on our side with it as far as it's privately funded. We don't have to worry about guys getting pulled off of the job to go take care of something else at the city. This is all private land, private money. And, and the guy behind it at the end of the day is Mark Music of Ruff Mortgage. And, he's the guy that tends to get stuff done. So I'm confident we're going to be ready to go. Will there be some amenities we're still figuring out or still finalizing? Maybe, sure. But I think we're going to be ready to go, and I'm excited. And yeah, just check our website, our social media. There's always updates, or honestly, just drive by the site. You'll kind of see. It's exciting to me. I try to not get in a wreck every day. I'm trying to look over what's new, what's going on when I go to the office, and without causing a rear end collision or something. But no, we're excited. Scott mentioned in an article with the Journal Gazette, Scott Sproat mentioned that he's excited for May 3rd, the day after than the actual May 2nd, just because then we'll have that game under our belt and be kind of ready to roll. And it's like any new thing like this, even with the Mad Ants, that back in 2007, our first game, there's a lot of stress, there's a lot of moving parts, and that was with a building that's been there for 50 years that we knew what we were working with. Now it's trying to figure out what's going to go here and what sign's going to need to go there. How's the video board tie into this? All those little things that maybe people don't think about are what we're kind of focusing on and getting ready. But yeah, that's kind of the update. We'll be ready to go, and just, follow along and you can see all the updates.
Yeah, I drive by it every single day on Bass Road, on my drive into work, and I'm like, oh, what are they working on today? Are they working on the roof, or are they working on spray painting all those steel beams? It's a lot of work to go into that, and you can see that they're making progress every single day out there. For you, what has been some of the challenges over the last year of trying to get interest in Fort Wayne FC? Obviously, they've had the established brand for about 5 years or so. When they were back in the I can't even remember what the league they were in before, but they've slowly worked their way up into the USL and now into USL1. What have some of been the growing pains, so to speak, over the last handful of years?
Well, I can't speak for everything from going back before I started, but I think in general it was kind of a best kept secret in Fort Wayne. Not everyone knew there even was a soccer team here, and we were in USL League 2, which was a pre-professional league. It was where basically college players are playing during their off season for us, and we're taking care of their housing and everything. But it's college players, and then kind of now educating people. Last year when we were at St. Francis, Bishop Darcy just, hey, we're here, we're getting ready for this big jump. Check us out before that, get your kind of foot in the door. Now it's more just educating people that now we are moving up, and we're going to be at a higher level. Where is the stadium? What's that going to encompass? What's all going to be there? So I think just making sure we're doing the outreach that we need to do, continuing to build those relationships. I'm big on, we need to have relationships in that youth soccer community, because that's where your future fans are going to come from. That's also where your future players can come from. One thing, and we haven't talked a lot about because it's a couple of years down the road, we want to have where we have most of the players on the team are from the Fort Wayne area, at some point, or at least maybe more than half. And that's a big thing with the Marcus, is to build that local youth movement. And have them all kind of come through the club in that way. Honestly, speaking of challenges, the biggest challenge for me, not so much is from where we were in previous years with the team, but from my background with the Mad Ants, and Scott Sproat's background with the Comets, we're used to at games, you have all these timeouts or intermissions or breaks. And with so I'm used to that. Where in soccer, you really just have halftime. So my biggest challenge last year was, where do we do all the promotional things? How do we the sponsor stuff? So that was a big difference, was just having that small time period to work for, where the Comets you have 2 20-minute intermissions. Basketball, you always quarter break timeouts. So that was the biggest challenge for me. Everything else is kind of, I feel like it's the same. It's just a different sport, but a lot of the other things doesn't make a big difference really.
Mm-hmm.
So Justin Cohn, director of communications, was on with Talking Sports with Jim Shovlin yesterday, and something that he talked about, which is a little bit more of his job description than yours, but I imagine something across the board you guys are all trying to do is bring interest not only from soccer fans, but also not soccer fans, people that aren't necessarily soccer fans that, you're trying to bring them in too, because they can enjoy. Why can't they enjoy professional sports in Fort Wayne as well? So from your perspective, which is, like I said, probably a little bit different than Justin's approach, but what route are you taking to do that, to bring in new partnerships?
Well, I think that's a great point. You want to have that casual fan. I think about the Tin Caps. I'm a baseball fan, but I'm not necessarily like a diehard fan. Where I'm going more for the socialization, the atmosphere, and that's exactly what you want to create at the park. We're gonna have a fan zone at the stadium where you walk in, you look to your right. There's gonna be a futsal court. Basically a mini soccer field that kids can play on. All the different bounce houses and things, and then right there next to it, there's a 70-foot the Megatron bar, which is Alco sponsoring Modelo, and so you can have your beverages and socializing, and we have a standing room only area right there, kind of like the lawn that the Tin Caps have. So I think just making sure all that's done really well, and then what promotions can we tie in? Having military night, having this soccer mom night, youth soccer, where you get people out to try it for the first time, or maybe they're just coming to a game because their kid's doing something there or whatever. But then wow, this is amazing. They're going to come back. So making sure whatever we can do to make sure the atmosphere is where, wow, I want to do this again. I want to come back. This was so much fun. And again, kind of like what I said about the Tin Caps, where, hey, I didn't see a single at bat, but I had a great time because I was enjoying some beverages, talking to friends and things, and just how cool the stadium is. So that's really I think if you do that, people will come back. I think the buzz is going to continue to grow as we get closer to that home match opening up. So I'm not really worried about that. It's just more, getting people to try it out and making sure from a sales standpoint, you're doing the proper outreach. You're getting in front of everybody so they know what's coming up. And you're going to have people that may be like, oh, we'll see what happens. So then we got to make sure we do a good job of delivering. So then they see what happened and now they want to be a part of it.
Yeah, I mean, you brought up something that I didn't even realize about, the promotional entertainment, during the game. Like you said, because the Tin Caps, they have half innings, every, 10 minutes. So there's always something going on, and there's, the action is constant on the soccer field. So yeah, that was, I never even thought about, how difficult or that challenges could be. You mentioned a couple of, obviously you had, time here locally with the Mad Ants, and Scott was formerly with the Commons. What influences did you take from the other sports teams in town? And I imagine, because there's people that, have crossed over with, other sports here in town and other franchises. What influences or what have you been able to gain from them to, influence in how you guys are going to approach this first season in the new stadium?
Yeah, I think there's going to be some similarities and also some big differences. I think with the comments you can take from, hey, the entertainment factor, that every time there's not play going on the ice or something going on at the intermission, something that you're going to watch, something on the video board. In the Tin Caps, I think the biggest thing is just, wow, what a gem, what a beautiful ballpark that is, and all the amenities there, and we need to be able to compete with that. And again, like all the sports teams in town, it's not like we're Pepsi and Coke. We're all kind of we get along, but obviously we're all trying to go after the same corporate dollars, the same people spending money at the entertainment dollars. But at the end of the day, we want to get along. And even with the Tin Caps, we really went out of our way of scheduling to make sure we're not going head to head with them. I think there's like 3 games where we couldn't really avoid, but other than that, we don't want to play on the same day as them and make people choose. That's just stupid for both people. So. But yeah, I would say just the Tin Caps, what a great job they do with that ballpark. And then the Comets, what they've done as far as all the different entertainment, all the things are just ingrained now with Comets fans, the Chuck-a-Pucks, things like that you think about, and how do we build our own like that. And with that said, also to kind of keep it under the soccer umbrella, where, if you watch soccer games, it's a lot less NASCAR and a more F1, where it's not as all the logos and things. So how do we, like for my job, how do we really represent our corporate partners well and make sure they're spending their dollars and getting the most value out of it, but also keeping it kind of clean and just uniform across the board, where it's not, again, there's just logos everywhere and what's what, and making sure they stand out in the right way, but also keeping that clean kind of soccer image.
He's Garrett Martz, Director of Corporate Partnerships from Fort Wayne FC. They got their season underway last night. Unfortunately, it was a loss, but they have another match, I believe, next Saturday. They're still down in Florida, but then they will come home eventually on May 2nd to open up Fort Wayne FC Park. And, hopefully you have a whole lot of people out there. And I can imagine the excitement is just building by the day out there for you guys. So hopefully, you guys have a continued success, and hopefully that stadium is done. And hopefully you guys are enjoying the everything that has been coming along with you guys, and hopefully that it's going to be a raucous environment on May 2nd. And thank you for coming on the show today, Garrett.
Hey, thank you guys for having me on. It's helping spread the word. It means a lot. It's important to have guys like you in the community supporting all the local sports. So thank you very much.
Thanks for coming on, Garrett. Appreciate you.